Welcome to Licking Non-Vanilla, a sex-positive hour of talk about kink, sexual mores, and writing dirty words. So grab a cup of cocoa, your favorite easy chair, and the lube as we go sailing into the dark, sweet waters of all things naughty. On Licking Non-Vanilla with your hosts Ralph Greco Jr. and M. Christian.
Hey kids, you have reached another Licking Non-Vanilla. I hope your tongue is ready for a good licking. Or to use your tongue or to receive a good licking. My name is Ralph Greco Jr. I am the co-host with the amazing, the talented, the adorable. I'll let him introduce himself. Across the world from me is
Chris, otherwise known as M. Christian.
Right, so you have to call him sir. Chris, how you doing out there in the wilds of Oregon?
Pretty good.
Yep.
It's been cold, but aside from that, it's just like, but it is the Pacific Northwest. I have to keep reminding myself of that. But
right.
Yeah, aside from that, all is good.
Good. Yeah, we have a moderate to getting warmer here in New Jersey. Now, today we have an interesting guest who's going to speak to us about all things, well, not all things related to camming, but we'll get into a whole bunch of stuff. I want her to introduce herself, as I always do with our guests. So I'm gonna give you over to the lovely...
Hi, everyone. I'm Femme Fatale. I am the media manager and PR representative for rouser.com.
Wow. Now, can you tell our listening audience what a rouser is?
A rouser is a sexting and video chat platform. It is female-based, so there's only female hosts that you can interact with. And it's open to anyone, couples, singles, any person can access a rouser and have a good time on it as long as they enjoy female attention and connection. That is the main thing. So there's a sexting option, there's a phone chat option, and there's also a video chat option. And the ladies who are on a rouser providing content can also sell videos and picture clips, photo galleries, if you will.
So what makes a rouser different than, all the other platforms out there, or is it not different beyond the fact that there's just female
It is
people?
very different because it is connection-based, actually built into the algorithm of a rouser. For female chat hosts to rank on the website, it's all based on their empathy factor of how good they connect with a member. So a paying member buys any amount of credits they want to chat with a lady, whether it's video, sexting, or phone chat. All of it's encrypted. All of it's completely anonymous for both sides, both the host, the chat host, and the member. So they can feel free to explore their sexuality, their kinks, their vanilla, whatever they want to explore with the female chat host. She's a host, not necessarily a model. So that's the bigger distinction. And that woman has to have excellent communication skills in order to have a good time working on a rouser, because if you are not engaging with the member on the other side of that conversation, you will not succeed on this platform. And most platforms are not as much about connection-based. They're about looks and shows and action over connection. And that's the thing I think we're all lacking a lot of in this world is empathy and connection, one-on-one communication skills. It's a skill,
No, that's for sure. I mean,
That's absolutely wonderful. I love it.
We say that all the time, right, Chris? We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, but the problem is we don't use 2 ears enough, And
Exactly.
A cool thing, a way of like how a rouser's been kind of coined, and as far as our media stuff goes, is it's what happens between the ears. That's where it all starts with a rouser, not in front of the eyes first. It's between. What is the connection being made in your brain to the other person?
How many ladies do we have on the platform at the moment?
Hundreds.
Wow.
And it's a global platform?
Yeah, so it's international ladies from everywhere. So you can chat with Europeans, Americans, Canadians, Mexicans, almost every continent it's accessible to. So there's ladies from all different walks of life with all different perspectives. The one thing that is true throughout the entirety of the platform is all of the ladies are very kink sex positive. So you're not going to be chatting with a square. You can really be free to explore whatever you want to explore. You don't have to be hardcore into kink. You can be vanilla as well, but It's super open that way. And we have a more rigid vetting process for whom we will approve to work on the platform. So you have to actually be verified to work with us. And it's more than just your age. Most camming or streaming tube sites, they just kind of look for the age verification, if they even look for that much, unfortunately. But we look a little bit deeper into the quality of the type of female we want to work on our platform. So not everyone who applies, being of legal adult consenting age, does get approved. It's a more rigorous approval process because we want to make sure that the quality is there over the quantity, which is why instead of having thousands upon thousands of hosts, as you can see on any other cam site, there will literally be probably 6, 7 to 10,000 girls online 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, which is a highly competitive market. We have a few hundred, but it's a great model for what a rouser really is about, because it's about the connection. So you're not going to find that on a broader scale. You're going to find that with the quality over quantity style approach.
No, that makes sense.
I think is absolutely wonderful. That's fantastic, because there's so many places out there that just somebody seems like throw people up there like, oh, we have 5,000 or whatever it is, and they're just not qualified, or they're not, not putting the effort into it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, such is life, right? Quality over quantity for anything, really.
Yeah, that's true. You just mentioned competitive markets, and we have all seen quite a lot of stuff going on in this market the last 2 years, especially maybe the last year, of a lot of I don't want to say underhanded, but there's a lot of stuff goes on. You'll hear about a controversy blowing up, and then it goes away, and then another thing comes up, and so I'm sure the public is a little skittish on platforms to trust and where to go. Have you seen any big, I don't know, I want to avoid the word controversy, but any big blow-ups that are happening that you guys have just like put your head down and just said, let's just skirt this and we'll keep doing what we're doing?
Yeah, the main two, which was covered internally by a rouser, was in regards to things happening on streaming content creator-based sites like OnlyFans, where we're noticing two things happening at nauseum right now. One is where the top 0.01% of creators who have millions of followers to be in that top percentile, a lot of them are outsourcing their own individual talents to other people, and those other people tend to be men. So, for example, a female model who has over 100,000 subscribers anywhere, and including on OnlyFans, typically we're finding a lot of stories getting leaked now, especially in Reddit forums, where subscribers to those higher top echelon influencers are basically using males. They're hiring males to text on their behalf. So they're actually, you think you're subscribing to a female because she's popular and she's famous and she's hot and she posts hot pictures all the time. And you think because your subscription guarantees some sort of interaction with her that you're talking to her. But because they're within those types of models with those content driven services, there isn't a lot of I would say policing being done of the content that's being created within those websites. There's no way for them to really track who is talking to whom, whether the creator is talking on their own behalf or they're using someone else to talk on their own behalf. And all these other times we're seeing the things that are coming up, which is described greatly in our blogs on a rouser with all of the information there, if people want to check it out, is that it's dudes. Dudes are paying to talk to women, but it's dudes they're actually talking to in real time. It's actually pretty hilarious because when you have that many people following you, you do not, and I understand from the female perspective as well why they would outsource that talent and that skill of connecting with your following, because they don't have time. How do you have time to respond to when you have to create the content in order to generate your traffic? You have to create that content. It's content first, connection later. But you're charging for both content and connection because no one is going to pay for the content if they don't have any way of speaking with you, of feeling a connection with you. There are some people who just care about the content for sure, but generally the guys subscribe, they put down the money because they want the connection to the content. So they have no choice but to outsource when it's a numbers game for them. The more subscriptions, the more money they make. The more content they make, the more subscribers they get. But then the connection side goes to the the side of everything. And the content becomes the main driving factor of their existence on these platforms.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say the word content, and in the world that Chris and I are in, where we're providing written content, you hear all the time, content is king, right? And I remember back in the day, Chris and I I was fortunate enough to spearheading a job where I had to get tons of blogs up for the site, and I hired Chris and a bunch of other writers. And it was certainly a situation where the blog content was suffering because they didn't care. They just want to get tons and tons of stuff up there. And I'm sure in any business, as we probably all can attest to, that's the way it is. Often there's a breakdown or something suffers because you're just trying so hard. I mean, you see it in streaming services on television or on cable. There's not everything out there is golden, and it's just too much stuff. And I think, like you said, if somebody gets extremely popular, what do you do? Where's the cutoff where you say, okay, I just need these many people now to follow me, and I'm going to stay true to my content, or I'm going to start to hire out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
That's like the world. Greed is greed, right? Numbers are numbers. People typically, they get more, they want more. So there's no cap on how many subscribers can I really reply to in a day. Like genuinely write a message to, remember their name, remember their background story, so they feel like they're part of my community. And I'm invested into it fully, not just from a content creator point of view, but as a human. There's a humanistic element there that's being lost with so much content, so much access to anything streaming constantly, so much of it. It's too much at a point, if anyone's ever seen whatever's latest Netflix release is, or whatever's on Prime right now, is 90% of it's dog shit, and it's not.
No, I agree. No, I totally agree. I mean, it becomes critical mass. You're like, there's just too much. We see it, the producer of the show and I see it all the time because we're musicians and he's a producer as well. And we see it with the glut of stuff that can be produced and made and created in somebody's basement that, they always say too, the cream will rise to the top, but I'm not sure that's true anymore.
I don't know, man. It doesn't look like that's really the truth right now, does it? Even from especially from a Hollywood entertainment perspective, it's definitely not the truth.
No, I don't think. I think, unfortunately, and then what happens is, and Chris and I talk about this all the time, the quality, and however you want to measure that, right? That's a whole other story. Mm-hmm. But the quality starts to lessen, and new audiences or audiences getting deeper into it don't even realize it's been lessened because this is just the paradigm now. You're like, well, this is what it is, and we'll take it now. This is all there is. That's the game in town.
Yeah, they get used and they get desensitized to a lower end version of, the truth or 100% real meat. They get fake meat instead, and they're okay with it because it's all they're used to seeing. Because we're saturated with lesser quality. It's not quantity over quality. It's quantity over quantity over quantity. So I think what's cool about being able to represent a company like a Rouser is just standing for something that's more honest about its business approach and its tactics. There's no scams. It's not about subscriptions at all. You will not ever have to subscribe to content. If you purchase content from the host, it's up to you and the host to decide what you want from her. And she has the right to decline if she doesn't feel comfortable creating any content that's outside of her wheelhouse. And it's not, there is content, but it's not content driven. It's connection driven. That's the difference and the thing that I think is valid to be known more about in this world of the internet, especially adult entertainment, that there can be more nuance in ways you find pleasure and in ways you can explore your sexuality with another person, even though they're not in the same room with you. Yeah,
well, I think that's true. And like you're saying, connectivity is the key,
Connection is the key to everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Can't disagree more. I mean, can't agree more. It's just like you said, it's like there's so many things where people just throw content out there, and it's just again, I think it's sort of like it's just this kind of a lack of a better word, kind of lazy or sloppy, because when things do come in, it's kind of low quality, and people are just not going to be they're after a certain point they're going to give up on that. I mean, I would be cheesed off if I was paying for something like on OnlyFans, and the person I was talking to wasn't the person I was talking to. That's pretty.
Yeah, it's on a basic level, right? That's just like you're not getting what It's like it's like the argument I have all the time about going to see a band whose members aren't left anymore. You're like, well, what am I seeing? This is just a cover band, which is fine if you advertise it that way. But at this point, you're paying a certain amount of money for content, and you want what you pay for. on a basic level,
Exactly.
Yeah, it needs to be reframed the way we view content and the levels of which the content is kind of consumed at. Because right now it's all kind of falling into one big pot, and there's no distinction or variation between styles of content. It's all just content creator, influencer. It's just one big pot. Even adult content isn't really separated from non-adult content. It's just kind of one big weird gray area right now of what's happening with the creator industry, the creator driven and led industry, because it's driven and led by them. So that means there is no quality control, because you're the creator. You decide what's good and what's bad. It's you as an individual, not a community as a whole overseeing this and judging things based on quality over the quantity of it.
Let's jettison off this because I do have a quick question that just came into my mind, and I'm going to ask this for Chris, because Chris will be way too humble to ask this question. So initially we found you because you did reach out to Chris. That's how you got in touch with Chris. Now, because of connectivity and because of the social media world, and we have a lot of writers that listen to this show and wonder how we're going to get jobs and find jobs and connect with people. How did you find Chris?
I found him in the sex tech. There was a Future of Sex. They had this top 50 list of like the top sex tech people in the industry right now, and his name was on that list.
Yeah, well, it should be. Yeah. No, really, it should be. No, I'm not blowing smoke up his butt. I mean, it's true. We both know our strengths and weaknesses. He has no weaknesses, but that is true. I was curious only because people who listen to this show, and we hopefully have a good listenership and across the globe, some of them are writers, because a lot of them are dirty word writers, and that's how we started this show, actually. And they're always interested in where to find jobs and where to connect and what's the best way to do it. And you're saying that you found Chris because that's the site he writes for, actually.
Yeah, it's a site he writes for, and then he had a pretty good Twitter presence. He's active on Twitter, so that goes to show a bit more of the personality of a writer when you look at their kind of social media resume, because that is now looked at as part of the job. So I would say those two things are very important, that you have a good social media resume, not just plugging your books, but being active in conversations around things you write about and things you're interested in writing about. Is just being part of those conversations it's half the game right now, because if people see you active in their community, they're going to be curious about you, and they'll be more willing to engage with someone who is active in a community than someone who they just have a list of all the books they've written on a website.
Good point, right, Chris?
Absolutely. I definitely agree on that one. And it is tricky, because again, you have to kind of balance what you're doing as far as like creating content again versus like how much time you're spending on social media. So it is kind of a balance.
Say that again, Chris. I think we lost.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Was there like interference or something?
Yeah, we just lost you for a second, but make that point.
Oh, no problem. It's like, and that's the issue these days. It's like, it's not just content creating, which is again talking about like OnlyFans and people who are cam performers, but it's also the social media aspect. So it's like, you can certainly get along with not doing a lot of it, but there is a certain amount you do have to do, at least to let the world know you exist. But it is very much a balance. And like writing for certain sites like Future Sex and such, I've just been fortunate that it's one of those things that's, stuck around for a while, that I can actually, produce enough content again that it sort of shows up on the radar. Yeah. But I'm not to say I'm very tickled and very pleased about, about this whole situation, because it's one of those things, and Ralphie will attest to this one too. It's like, you often wonder, like, am I invisible? Are people looking at me? What's going on? It's just like, especially with social media, because half the time you don't think, you kind of feel like, what the hell's going on? Why is it so quiet? What's going on? But that's so wonderful. I want to thank both of you for that. That's really very touching.
Yeah, you're awesome. I mean, that's the nature of the internet, right? It makes you feel invisible 90% of the time.
Yeah, no kidding.
Even if you are top 0.01% creators on an OnlyFans, not all of your posts are always going to land. So, and not always, the thing you're trying to convey is not always going to be understood by the public. So you can be having all these likes and shares around your content, but what you're actually trying to convey isn't really being completely understood as a creator too. I'm just trying to think of that point of view, because not every tweet gets the same amount of likes or shares or comments. It's the nature of the internet. So even though you are getting likes and shares, you're still going to invalidate yourself by looking at, oh, that was my top post though. So these ones aren't as good because they didn't rank as well as the other ones, right? So whether you're getting no feedback or a lot of feedback, that is still part of the nature of the internet, is to make you feel that way about yourself.
Right. Yeah, no kidding. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. That is one of the things about the internet. It's like, for something that's supposedly going to kind of like be a communication tool, very often it's very isolating. Yeah. So it is like, that's why they call it the whole idea of like engaging again, or giving like not just like sitting and spectating, but it's difficult to do because it's like a lot of people, it's like, especially, people of a quote unquote certain age, it's like, it's a very difficult concept to kind of understand. And it can also be kind of, seductive too. You find yourself like poured into it. And, so much so it's like, I have to get work done.
Well, I often think of it, and maybe I'm the only one has ever used this term, but it's like a web. Like, it's around the world. It's like a world wide web.
Exactly.
That's how it started.
I get crickets from you guys. I'm trying to make a joke and I get crickets. Thanks a lot.
Chirp.
Thanks a lot. All right.
I'm the first one to ever say it.
Yeah. I mean, I also said war is hell, but that's me too.
That's me too.
Yeah. First of all, let me just give a little ID here before we go any further. You're listening to Licking Non-Vanilla, and we're talking today to Femme Fatale from a rouser. And we're going to get into a couple more questions with her. We don't want to keep her too long, but let's just talk about what do you see on the horizon for a rouser, or this kind of connectivity in general? Is there something we're talking about futurists and all that kind of stuff. What do you see coming in the near future, or if anything at all?
Great question. We launched another area of the website called Dirty Roulette. So that's an addition to sexting, phone, or video chat. It's a roulette chat, video chat with verified females anytime you want to chat with them. So we launched the beta version, I believe it was a few months ago. I think this was 4 months ago that we launched beta, Dirty Roulette Hour. That happens between 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. At night right now. So it's basically 2 hours at night. That's kind of like a happy hour, but like a kinky one for anyone who wants to just kind of get their feet wet on a rouser and get to know some of our hosts. You can see them live in real time on video, and it kind of just cycles through everyone who's on the platform at that time who's using the Dirty Roulette chat. So you can be in a room with someone for free for up to 30 seconds, I believe, before it goes into a paid chat mode where you would be one-on-one with that person having a session together. So you can pick and choose who you want to engage with and get a bit of a free preview, if you will, of the lady in front of you. And you don't have to do anything. You just log on, click Dirty Roulette, and you just sit back and just chat and figure out who you want to chat with. It just will cycle through naturally of any of the girls. So that's kind of a cool new feature, because chat roulette was known as the depths of the internet back in the day, where guys would go to try to chat with chicks for free. And but the problem is it wasn't monitored or verified. So you could get anybody on the other end of that. 90% of the time, it's going to be a dude jerking off on the other side of the video, because it was mostly dudes on there looking to chat with chicks, but there was more dudes than there were women on those dirty free chat roulette sites. So the reason this is a paid version is because you're going to get the quality there of knowing that there is always a woman on the other side of that roulette. Spin the wheel and see what you get. It's not going to be a surprise. There's not going to be any dicks on your screen. You choose to show yours to the lady. So that's kind of cool, and it's expanding now in the next few months. So that's a pretty exciting new feature that's been working well on a rouser, and the hosts are into it, the members are into it. So they're going to expand the roulette hours to longer hours. So you'll see more people available for longer periods of time in the Dirty Roulette chat side of the website.
Interesting, very interesting. And then, generally speaking, where do you think chat's going? If it's going anywhere as far as in the future. You two are futurists. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm not a futurist at all. Okay. Although
Did you play one on television? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I just play one on TV sometimes. Just on TV sometimes. Okay. But I think, honestly, I see a big pendulum swing or switch back to kind of the original thing, which was about having chats, having conversations. People don't even really want to text as much anymore, personally speaking. I personally prefer to talk on the phone over text scrolling and trying to explain a novel of my life in a text to somebody. I'd rather pick up the phone and have an engaging conversation with less people than try to talk to a lot of people all day through texting. I kind of feel like the world, from what I know of just interacting with humans, both interfacing online and interfacing in real life, people are generally getting kind of burnt out on texting. They want more of a real human communication factor. They want a voice element. So I think voice is going to become much more, I think, important than ever over even texting. Unless I think sexting is still going to be hot, and I think that's never going to change. I think sexting is going to be part of our existence as humans for until there's no more texting ever, and I don't see that changing. But I can see people going more towards like a voice communication, even over video, because we're so burnt out on, content sales at this point. There's so much saturation in that market. I think the voice is going to become like the next big thing. Not that it was never a big thing. It never went anywhere. Right. But people didn't want to be on the frickin' phone. People still don't want to be on the phone. But I think there's a certain generation that wants to harken back to the days where you could just have an actual conversation with somebody, like just a real chat, not a text, not not even a video, because not everyone wants to be seen on camera at all times. Like, with a rouser, it's different. You don't have to be on the screen. So that's the great thing about it. It's anonymous. You can choose to show yourself or not. So that's the beautiful thing about that. But from any other perspective, even outside of the adult entertainment skew, I would say voice. I think people want to connect, but they don't want to necessarily have the pressure of being on camera in order to have that connection. Because not everyone's camera ready, or maybe you don't feel as good, but you still want to connect, meaning you don't want to go out, but you still want a human connection. So you kind of jack it into your eardrum instead of the video interfacing option.
Well, I mean,
that's brilliant. I think that's absolutely correct. I think and once again, it's like, video can be kind of intimidating too, especially if you're like, nervous or something similar. And there's also the power, of course, of imagination. Just like, remember the good old days of like, phone sex. It was just like mostly about telling stories and just, kind of like, not depending so much on having a pre-made, I guess you could say, like, video package. It's just, I'm actually thinking it'd be kind of cool to go back to those kind of like, once again, just chatting with someone. I think it's also more intimate in some ways.
Yeah, when you don't have the looks involved to distract you either, right? You're looking for a different thing. When you're not looking at the thing, you're just talking to the thing, the thing, the he, the him, the shim, whatever. Right. It's different. You connect on a totally it's like being blind. It's almost like erotic because it's just like being blindfolded, right? You blindfold to increase your other senses, to heighten your other senses.
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, it's like the old days of radio, It was much, not that either you remember that. I remember that. I'm much older than either of you.
I remember radio.
Yes.
But I mean, the shadow knows, I mean, that stuff was, I'm talking way back. I'm talking back when you didn't have television. So all you had was your mind, and I think maybe that's, and you said at the beginning of this thing, what's between the ears is what matters, right? That's the most important thing.
Yeah, that is the most important thing. Yeah. That's the end all and be all of humanity, and of even, that's what they're programming AI now for, making the new human brain to exist digitally.
Right. Exactly. Well,
I think that's also why we were seeing like a resurgence of interest in like radio shows and that kind of thing, and it also shows that that's why books and stories still exist. It's like they haven't been replaced because there's a fundamental thing about expressing imagination, especially when it comes to sex. I think that just lends itself to that kind of lack of video and all that kind of like. More input rather than less, or less input rather than more. I'm not sure what I said.
You gotta hope. You gotta hope that we can rise above that, and we will seek that out. Like as we're all saying, I don't think we will. I think we're destined for extinction within the next 5 years. But that, but to put a fine positive point on things. I think I agree. I mean, what we're thinking and what we don't see is definitely going to be more interesting all the time anyway, and I think that something like a rouser seems to be on the right edge of that, going in the right direction, if I could say the right direction, but in a direction where we're going to get nuance, and I think that's probably what is the sexiest thing of all, right? A lot of meat on the bone, as it were.
Yeah. Adult entertainment, like there is so much nuance in the adult field, and it's like a lesser, better. For me, I'm partial. Of course, I'm going to say better version than porn because I enjoy the company a lot. Like I wouldn't work for the company unless I completely 100% felt like I resonated with the ethos of the company and the brand. Right. And the biggest thing is what you don't see a lot with most companies is just the authenticity factor. Like, this is how we do it. Things are verified in a certain way. There's kind of a strict protocol for things. And people are not usually that forthcoming with their business practices, especially in the adult entertainment field, most especially.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I think that's why the people we've talked to in the past and the people that Chris and I work with or for, the ones that seem to last are the ones who have that kind of a model of, I don't want to say the word transparency because it's overused, but have a very true, this is our ethos, and what you could not like it if you don't want to, but at least this is what we're doing, and we don't have any other agenda. This is what we do, and then you either work with them or not. But at least those are the people that you can go to time and again, and you know what they're going to deliver, and you know why they're going to deliver it, and you can agree to work or engage them or not. But I think it's much healthier that way because then you know what you're getting. And nobody gets scammed. Swindled.
Exactly.
Yeah, swindled.
Exactly.
Swindled and scammed. And we were just talking about that before. A lot of that's going on, and
a lot of it's going on. It's going on dating apps. It's going on adult entertainment apps. It's going on everywhere.
Everywhere. Of course, because the criminal element I don't know if that's the right word, but that criminal element will always exist in any, and especially in new enterprises, right? Because they go right for it. Because it's new and it's easy to scam people because people don't know the parameters yet, That's the thing. So, what I want to see is, the Tinder Swindler, that big Netflix situation. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I want to see the next version of that, the Cam Girl Swindler.
Well, give it time. Give it time. That's going to happen,
I want to see it. Maybe I should not have said that because maybe I should be writing that myself.
Well, there you go. Well, you got Chris on board. You guys got to start putting it together. Come on.
Yeah. Let's start putting it together.
Right, why not? But you remember, just give me credit for War is Hell because, I really win.
I will. And
Ralph doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.com.
You got it.
Femme Fatale, we thank you so much for your time. We're going to get people over to a rouser, and when this airs, we will get the blog up and get the URL in there, and we just thank you so much. It's been an incredibly interesting conversation. Really.
Absolutely.
Thank you. You guys were awesome. I'm so glad I had this chat. You're a great host.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're obviously someone with a lot of with taste. I think we're so wonderful, and but thank you, really. It's been so informative and so much fun, and I can't wait to get off the program now and go to a rouser.
Yeah, have fun. Enjoy the rest of the show, everybody, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Well, what do you think about that, Chris?
That was absolutely wonderful. That was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, well, I got to thank you for that one, buddy, because you set me up. She contacted you. And then you contacted me to contact her. This is how it works. This is how it works out in Radio Land. And, when I contacted, she was very forthcoming. She told me exactly what she had spoke to you about. And then I know you had further discussion about work with her. Mm-hmm. But, and I said, well, this is going to be a really interesting conversation. I could just tell by the emails back and forth. And then I was like, well, let's get her on and talk about this. Because we haven't talked to anybody yet. We've talked to content providers, but I don't think we have talked to any cam ladies yet. Maybe we did way back, but
I think way back we did. Absolutely.
Yeah, but this has been a very interesting conversation on licking non-vanilla. But it was great, Chris. I thank you so much. It'll be a little bit of a shorter show today, but we got a lot of information to digest,
Absolutely. Once again, it was so much fun. And again, it's just like, it was just pure serendipity. That's one of those things where it was just like, once again, the 6 degrees of separation and all that kind of thing.
Yeah,
because, I think definitely it's like, I would definitely love to have her back and, find out more about this because the whole evolution of the cam girl site, the cam sites is just so fascinating.
It's incredible.
How it went from nothing to suddenly like what seems like overnight.
$1 billion business, Chris. People are making money like crazy, like just nuts. It's funny because Exotica used to be. I was just talking to my buddy about this. Those conventions we used to go to, the Exotica convention, which is a fan convention, which just happened in Chicago. And I remember going to that convention, and it was the DVD movie sites that were the main sponsors at that time, right? Mm-hmm. Wicked and Vivid. And now if you go to Exotica, it's replete by Chatterbait and all these other places that are campsites. So it shows you how like Chris was just saying, the progression of things.
It's just like, and a lot of it was driven, I think, by COVID because people were stuck at home, and the same thing
what are you
like
gonna do, right?
Exactly, it's the same thing about like sex toys. Why they took off like crazy because of the same exact thing. People were kind of stuck at home. Yeah, and I think OnlyFans, when it first started to like, rear its head, was just kind of like a very small part of the world, part of this whole kind of like, the whole adult entertainment industry. Yeah. But, after that, it just blew up.
It's unbelievable.
And now there's all kinds of like competition for them, of course, which is always, very healthy and good.
Yeah. And what, like you're saying, what comes out of that healthy and good competition is a place like a Rouser, which is on top of their game and seem to care about their content. And then, they have wonderful people like Femme Fatale working for them, who was, again, we couldn't thank her enough. She was so informative and so informed and so sweet. We just love when we have guests like that because it makes our job that much easier.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And again, I just love this fact that here's a company that is like looking at what's happening in this aspect of the adult entertainment industry, and instead of just trying to say like, oh, we're just going to throw out as much stuff as possible, it's more about, once again, quality versus quantity. And I think that's something that really needs to be said more and more because, these companies keep doing this kind of like, oh, we're just going to keep shoveling this stuff out there. It's going to come back to bite them. I mean, look at Netflix. Netflix has been recently really justifiably criticized because, they haven't really delivered much as far as quality goes. And I know particularly there's like several different places I go for my entertainment. There's just like, seriously? Just like, why did you, buy this? Or why are you putting this out?
And that's, that's a matter of taste, of course, right? You can't ever say what's good or what's bad. But I don't think it's a matter of the cream rises to the top because I think what happens nowadays is that, like all the three of us just said, the sensibilities have lessened so much. We don't know what's good or bad anymore.
Exactly.
And we're just sitting there going, and I mean, there's many a night where I'm sitting in front of, regular television, Netflix, and whatever else, Amazon, and I can't find a goddamn thing to watch. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, man, is it me? And I mean, there's just so much stuff, but I think after a while, you're like, is some of it's good, some whatever, but it's just like, I don't know if I give a shit, and I think that's what happens. And I think what a Rouser does give a shit, and it's nice that they do, because
absolutely,
I think people, when you're looking for intimate connections, you want to give a shit. You want to be talking to somebody who gives a shit,
Yep, exactly. And then I love the fact, too, it's like they understand what the allure is. Because many of these, and whatever the entertainment it is, it doesn't really matter, frankly, because there's something for everybody out there. But, again, it's like people are looking for a connection as opposed to just simply something that's superficial. Yeah. And I think that's really special that they're out there, and that's their big message. That's what they're trying to do with a Rouser. Is like, we're not going to just simply just like try and treat our customers like, like piggy banks, that we try and get as much out as possible. Right. Instead, they're like, no, we're actually going to try and make a quality experience because quality experiences, are what people want, and that's why they'll come back. And I think that's hope, right? Really important.
Yeah,
exactly.
I sometimes, I agree. I mean, I think that, they give a shit, and I think that's at the end of the day, maybe if we all gave a shit about what we're doing a little bit more, at least like not. You can't make the public love you. You're just but the least you can do is at least give it a good shot. And be proud of your work. And then if you're proud of your work, even if no one ever listens to it or hears it or whatever, at least you have the self-satisfaction, and then maybe you're putting something good out there, like at least something you believe in, which we try to do here, Chris. We try to put something to put together we care about, right?
Yep, absolutely. It's always a delight, Ralphie. Always a delight.
It is. It's always good to lick you, Chris. And but who doesn't say that on a regular basis? Listen, kids, you've been listening to Licking Non-Vanilla. My name is Ralph Greco Jr., and across the aisle there is...
Chris, otherwise known as M. Christian.
And we are done with this show. I hope you had a good time. And we're going to see you next time. Thank you, Femme Fatale from Rouser, and we'll see you next time, kids. Bye-bye.
And visit us on the web at www.lickingnonvanilla.com.